Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back. In lecture 44, we will cover special waste management, and this is part 1 of the lecture. The different concepts that we will cover are special waste, including domestic hazardous waste, special waste management rules, then we will talk about plastic waste and the different issues in India, plastic waste management rules 2016, then we will talk about the responsibilities and functions of local bodies in regards to plastic waste management, and then we will talk about plastic waste management. Then we will also touch upon single-use plastics and overall plastic recycling and plastic reuse. So, when we talk about, we have already discussed about special waste, and some of this waste is hazardous, and we are mostly concerned with the domestic hazardous waste. Now, there are also hazardous waste generated by the industries or specialized units that we will touch upon some of that, but in most cases the industries and those units will be responsible for the management as well as for their processing or transporting them to the processing facilities and eventual disposal. So, we are mostly concerned with the municipal waste stream, and whatever amount of waste that is generated in the municipal area, that is what we are concerned about. So, usually industrial, there may be some industries, some sort of smaller units which are there in urban areas, but bigger industries and all we are not concerned about. So, special waste requires special handling and disposal. That's why we call it special waste, and this is primarily this special handling is required because we want to protect human health and environment, and so because we want to protect human health and environment from this waste, we have to be extra careful. And this will also include the domestic hazardous waste as well. So both is covered in this particular lecture. So this waste are not actually dealt together with the other municipal waste streams that we have discussed earlier, like wet waste stream or the dry waste stream. So this is kept separate from both of those particular waste streams. And why we do that? So that it doesn't because this kind of waste will contaminate those other waste streams, and there may be issues in their recycling. Now, why this waste we are calling them special? Because they are more harmful than the other kind of waste. So basically, their quantity is one issue. So their quantity is one issue. Usually they are in lesser quantities. Then their concentration, their physical, chemical or biological properties, which are different from the other waste that we usually collect in urban areas. So what we are going to cover? We are going to cover plastic waste. We are going to cover biomedical waste that is generated within urban areas by different generators of biomedical waste, slaughterhouse waste, electric and electronic waste to a certain extent, waste tires and battery waste. So these are the different kinds of special waste that we are going to cover. There are other special waste as well, which is not covered in this particular lecture. So, we are supposed to segregate at our household and at different establishments or institutions, but usually in many urban areas in India, we are yet to do proper segregation, or sometimes even though we ask people to segregate, the eventual waste that comes out may be partially segregated, but still we have got a lot of mixed waste. So lot of mixed waste streams comes in, so there is a need to do further processing or taking out this kind of waste out of the standard municipal waste stream, so that those waste streams are not contaminated. So when we deal with this kind of special waste, we have to be aware of the different rules that are there which governs how we should deal with this particular waste. So particularly for plastic, we have the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016. There is another rule set of guidelines which is in regards to the extended producer responsibilities in regards to plastic waste, that we will discuss later. And then there is guidelines for recycling of plastics, which are the Indian standards 14534, and this was made in the year 1998. And then there is guidelines for co-processing in cement, power and steel industry for plastic waste. So these are the three guidelines which have been which are there, which we can follow while determining how we should manage plastic waste in urban areas. Then for biomedical waste, we have the Biomedical Waste Management Rules 2016. For e-waste, we have e-waste management rules 2016. For battery waste, lead acid batteries, we have Battery Management and Handling Rules 2001. Then for hazardous waste, we initially had Hazardous Waste Management and Handling Rules 1998, and eventually now we are using Hazardous and Other Waste Management and Transboundary Movement Rules 2016. So this is what governs how we should deal with hazardous waste. Now, overall goal is to, as we have learnt about the integrated solid waste management, that overall goal is to minimize the generation of this kind of waste. Minimization could be done at the consumption side or even at the production side, like we replace this kind of waste by something which are more sustainable and so on. Or we can in general reduce the quantity of production or use of this kind of waste by the the households or the institutions which uses this kind of waste. They can go for alternative waste instead of using alternative products instead of using this products which generate this kind of special waste. Then one is waste minimization and reduction. The other part is, of course, whatever we consume, that has to be reused or recycled to the greatest extent possible. So these are the two targets of what we should try to achieve to overall reach sustainable development for an urban area. So two kinds of waste what we have discussed till now, that is slaughterhouse waste and biomedical waste. These two cannot be recycled. You can understand why. So usually we are thinking more about how to process this waste further so that when they are disposed, they don't create any kind of problems. So we will first start with plastic waste. Now the plastic waste generated in India, we get different figures from different sources. For example, this estimate ranges from 1 to 10% of municipal solid waste is plastic. So what it means is that different urban areas, based on their characteristics, we will find different percentage of plastic content in the waste that is being collected. So for example, urban area where there are a lot of recyclers, informal recycling happening, you will find very little amount of plastic waste because that is not part of the municipal waste streams, because people sell it directly to the recyclers. But in other areas where this kind of recycling activity is not there, you may find more. But in other things is based on lifestyle, based on size of city, the consumption of plastic is also, or consumption of packaged materials is also different, and accordingly you will find less amount of waste there. So the estimate is around 0.8 million tons of waste is generated per year, and this figure is from 2008, which is pretty almost 14 years back. So now this figure has of course increased beyond that. So we get other estimates, something like 9% of MSW and around 14,000 tons of waste is generated per day. Another publication talks about 4 to 5% of MSW and 4,000 to 5,000 tons per day. It depends on where the study has been conducted or which cities have been considered while generating this kind of figures. So now to define what is plastic waste, plastics are generally non-biodegradable, synthetic polymers derived primarily from fossil fuel. So this is the second part of it. And made up of long chain hydrocarbons with additives and can be molded into finished products. So plastics, most of the plastics are generated from fossil fuel, and these are made into finished products by molding them, by pouring molten plastic inside a mold, and eventually we get the product out of that particular mold. So there are two kinds of plastic. One is monomer, and then there are polymers also. So monomers are basically when synthetic polymers are broken using catalyst, we get monomers, which are like ethylene, propylene, vinyl, styrene, benzene. Now monomers, when chemically polymerized, becomes the different kinds of plastic categories that we are actually working with. For example, from synthetic polymers, we first break it down, we make the monomers. Now monomers are again combined together and in whatever monomers we want to be combined to reach that desired quality of plastic which is actually utilized. Now, in general, there are two kinds of plastic. One is recyclable and the others are not. Now, thermoplastics are the ones which are recyclable, and non-recyclable are the thermosets and some other plastics. Now, some of this you may have heard, like PET, you have heard of PET bottles, like the plastic bottles in which we have water and so on. PET is polyethylene terephthalate. We have discussed this earlier in the case of Panaji, where PET bottles are recycled and all. Then HDPE, high density polyethylene, V-vinyl, this is PVC. Then LDP is low density polyethylene, PP is polypropylene, PS is polystyrene, and so on. And you can also get other kinds of plastic material like ABS, which are ABS, is used in car bumpers and lot of these hard plastics and all. These are actually mixed with polystyrene, some resins and other multi-materials, like multiple materials are mixed to create this kind of material such as ABS or PPO or PBT and so on. Now, this non-recyclable plastics are multi-layered and laminated plastics. This is not a single layer plastic, these are multi-layer. We will define this, what does multi-layered plastic means later on. These other terms which you may be aware of, like bakelite, puff, polycarbonate, melamine, nylon. So these are all different kinds of non-recyclable plastics or thermosets, which are actually a mixture of other materials as well. And these are non-recyclable and also multi-layered. So now in today's context, as per the this plastic management rules, this kind of plastics are banned. The reason they are banned is because we are not able to recycle them. Now, this BIS classifications talks about 7 categories of plastics. Out of that, you find first is PET bottles, HDPE, V for PVC, LDPE, PP, PS, and other. Everything else falls into the other category. So this is the 7 kind of plastics which are being categorized under BIS classification system. Now, why are we concerned with plastic waste? Now, quantity of plastic waste in a city actually varies, and it is connected to the lifestyle of the people, the socioeconomic conditions of the people. It depends on other aspects as well, but more or less these are the 2 major things which decide on what quantity of plastic is generated by an urban area. Then plastics result in littering, which it gives a pretty bad aesthetic look for that particular area. So it's a big concern. For Indian urban areas primarily, we see our roads littered with plastics and so on. Clogging of drains resulting in flooding. Plastic goes into the drains, people dump the plastic into the drains and the drains get clogged, and that is resulting in flooding. Animals choke from eating plastic bags. These plastic bags not only for urban areas and also in semi-urban rural areas, you will find this plastic bag litter all around, and you find cattle grazing on some green fields, or even from garbage. Sometimes you find animals eating. So you will find that they sometimes eat up this plastic and they can choke and they die. Thin plastic waste is a big issue. The reason thin plastic is a problem, because these are too light to be recycled. When you weigh them, it doesn't have any kind of weight. So recyclers are not interested, because you can only sell things which have a certain weight, then you will get paid based on the weight, right? Or the other thing is it can fly around and it will spread, and it's difficult to store or recycle them. So that's why thin plastic bags is a big issue. Littered plastic in agricultural fields and gardens block germination and prevents recharge of groundwater, because obvious reasons. That means the water cannot penetrate through the plastic. Plastic sachets for storing, packing and selling gutkha, tobacco, pan masala. This causes a lot of litter, and now these are being banned. So we are usually concerned about the post-consumer plastic waste that is being generated. That means once a consumer consumes the plastic, then whatever waste is generated, we are concerned about that. So pre-consumer plastic is also there. That is where industries or producers or brand owners, they are actually using plastics to make something. So that is pre-consumption plastic use. So we are mostly concerned with the post-consumption use, because that is where we can actually control the waste. That means once the waste is generated, then we will manage the waste. But sometimes we can take measures for reducing plastic use at the pre-stage as well. So within this waste that is generated after post-consumption, we will find thermoplastic is around 80%, which is recyclable, and thermosets are around 20%, which are not recyclable. Now, you have to understand one thing. Even though we are saying that thermoplastics are recyclable, that means we can recycle this plastic, or taking certain measures of first collecting them and storing them, and then finally as per the different categories of plastics we can recycle them. But the problem is each recycling cycle will reduce the strength and utility of that plastic. So that means you cannot use the same plastic for manufacturing the exactly same thing. So either you can reduce that content in the next iteration, or you will make something else with this plastic, right? And different kind of plastics cannot be recycled together. Each plastic is different and each plastic has to be dealt separately. So when recycling is not possible, that means in many cases you will find that there is no further recycling is possible for this kind of plastic and so on. In that case, we will put plastics for energy recovery. That means we will put them for co-processing, maybe in cement plants or other lime kilns and so on. So where plastic is used as a fuel. Plastic is an alternative to bitumen in road construction. So nowadays we have developed the technology so that plastics could be used instead of bitumen, and bitumen, as you know, is the binder for construction of roads with aggregates and all. So that is where also plastics can be utilized. The disposal system, finally, once we are explored all options for recycling and reuse and all, then we can dispose the plastic finally, and we can do it using different ways. First of all, we can there are some experimental techniques which are there, such as plasma pyrolysis and production of liquid fuel. So using the pyrolysis technique, we have learnt earlier that we can generate some amount of oil or some amount of liquid fuel also can be generated, so which could be further used for energy generation and so on, or we can directly incinerate it and also landfill it as per requirements. Now another issue with plastic is single-use plastic. That means plastic, this is from the behavioral side. If we, in many cases we use materials which are made of plastic, we use it once and then we throw it away. Because plastic is cheap, we use this kind of plastic material so that it is only utilized for once and then we can get rid of it. Such as plastic bags, straws, coffee stirrers, soda and water bottles and food packaging. So this has to be reduced. If we can reduce this, automatically the burden from plastic waste, we will get rid of that particular huge amount of plastic that is being generated. So now we will talk about the Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016, and these are some of the definitions. So more or less we have learned what is plastic. Then virgin plastic is the plastic material not subjected to use earlier and also not been blended with scraps or waste or other materials. So that means virgin plastic is the raw material which is coming for the first time making a plastic. Compostable plastic is plastic that undergoes degradation by biological processes during composting and does not leave visible, distinguishable or toxic residue. So these are new kinds of plastic which are coming, which would be compostable, which are compostable, and that means that they will not we can utilize them without any concern that this plastic will remain in the environment and for the next 100 or 50 years, whatever the case may be with the standard plastics. For biodegradable, then there are biodegradable plastic, which are plastics other than compostable plastic, but which also undergoes degradation by biological processes without leaving any microplastic or visible or distinguishable toxic residue. So both these two kinds of plastic are plastics which are sustainable, we can use them and then we can allow it to degrade. Then thermoset and thermoplastic, we have discussed earlier. Thermoset is plastic which becomes irreversibly rigid when heated and hence cannot be remolded further. Thermoplastic is plastic which softens on heating and can be molded into desired shape. Then we come across the term carry bags multiple times in plastic waste management. So these are used for carrying dispensing commodities which do not include a carrying bag with themselves. And multi-layered packaging, this is also we have heard earlier, this means any material used for packaging having one layer, at least one layer of plastic. So that means multi-layered could be multiple types of plastic together, or it could be plastic with some other material like paper and so on. And we have also talked about post-consumer plastic packaging waste and pre-consumer plastic packaging waste as well. Now, as per the rules laid out in the Plastic Management Rules 2016, there are several responsibilities and functions of the local bodies which are being listed. And in addition to that, there are duties of the plastic waste generators, which is more or less similar to Solid Waste Management Rules 2016, that plastic waste generators should actually dispose it properly, they should segregate it, and all these different rules which are similar to Software Management Rules 2016. But for responsibilities of the local bodies in regards to plastic waste, there are some new things that also are there. So, such as infrastructure creation and then ensuring segregation, collection, storage, transportation, processing and disposal of plastic waste. So, this is one of the primary rules that is there in regards to plastic waste management. Then channelization of recyclable plastic waste fraction to recyclers. Now, as we discussed earlier, plastic waste cannot be mixed together, and even within plastic also we have to segregate it as per the categories based on what can be recycled and what cannot be. Not all plastic can be recycled. Similarly, same kind of plastic cannot be recycled using the other plastics cannot be recycled using processes for other kinds of plastic, right? So, every plastic type has a separate process for recycling. So, we can use plastic waste for road construction as per IRC guidelines, or energy recovery or waste to oil that we have learned. Thermoset plastic waste processing and disposal should be done as per CPCB guidelines. Then in addition to that, whenever we are doing recycling and all, rejects and inert material from recycling and processing facilities should be also done as per Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. So that means we have to take these rejects and dispose it to the landfill site and so on. Then for plastic waste management, awareness campaign is a big deal, and we have to discuss about the responsibilities of the different kinds of stakeholders through these campaigns. Then we have to engage civil societies or groups working with waste pickers so that plastic waste can be collected, segregated, sorted and so on. And we have to prevent open burning of plastic waste, which leads to a lot of toxic smoke and all, which is very harmful for human health. And assistance of producers in plastic waste management in urban areas. So, and framing of bylaws by ULBs. So, these are the other responsibilities. So, framing of bylaws is creation of laws or fines and all these things by the ULB, so that people will actually stick to proper plastic waste management practices. Now, overall, when we talk about plastic waste management, the three parts, of course, collection, segregation and finally processing. So, when we talk about collection, door-to-door collection from generators along with other non-biodegradable waste, that is what we do. And then sorting should be done at intermediate sorting facilities or at MSW processing facility. This we have learnt earlier as well. Then segregation has to be done as per different plastics types, subcategories of plastic, because each follows different recycling process. And final processing is post-consumer plastic waste to be given to the recycling industry with pre-negotiated agreements and directly or via private operator engaged to manage municipal solid waste. So, either the municipality can or ULB can do it on its own, or via the operator who collects the waste in that particular area, they can give this or transport this processed waste or sorted waste to the recycling industry. So, these are the general stages that we have followed for any kind of waste management. So, the same is also done for plastic. But in addition to that, we are more concerned with single-use plastics, plastic recycling and reuse to certain extent, sustainable disposal of plastic, and finally, extended producer responsibility in regards to plastic waste. Now, extended producer responsibility is very, very important for plastic, because until unless we change the kind of products that we are selling or improve the quality of the products or the degradability of those particular products, people will keep on using, because plastic is very, very convenient, plastic is cheap. So, it is very difficult to change behavior. Instead, we should change the supply. So, that is where this extended producer responsibility comes in, and also we can change certain amount of behavior, like people can recycle, people can send some amount of plastic material back to the producer so that they can utilize it and so on. So, When we talk about single-use plastics, we already said that we use many plastics once and throw it away. Like for example, like eyeglasses, frames, plastic cups, egg trays, these are made of PS, and packaging and building insulation, these are made of PSC. This is about 6.7% of the overall plastic waste that is being generated, and usually these are generated from households and commercial establishments. Similarly, water bottles, soft drink bottles, container for juices, these are either PET bottles or PET bottles, and then these are 7.4% of the waste, and these are generated in commercial establishment, households, institutions, and so on. So similarly, you can find HDPE, which is like shampoo bottles, pipes, houseware. So all the pipes and all are HDPE pipes, right? So you find them in service shafts, households, commercials, areas, and so on. So all these different categories of plastics, these are being listed over here. This shows us that what percentage of plastic, what type of plastic we are generating, and this can help us in understanding where we can take some measures so that we can reduce those particular single-use plastic and replace them with materials which are either non-single use or totally alternative materials for that matter. So that will reduce the overall plastic waste that will be generated. Then government has also taken some initiative in regards to reduction of plastic waste. For example, government has said that carry bags and plastic packaging should be made in natural shade which is without added pigments, or made using only those pigments and colors allowed by in BIS for foodstuff, pharma, and drinking water, because people store food materials and all this thing in plastic, so we have to be careful. And recycled plastics cannot be used for storing or carrying ready to eat food and drink, because those may be contaminated. And all carry bags made of virgin or recycled plastic shall be less than 50 microns in thickness, which is absolutely necessary so that the thin plastic menace is actually reduced. Then in addition to that, not only for production but also plastic is imported from outside. Lot of material that we import from outside contains plastic within them. So the manufacture, import, stocking, distribution, sale, and use of single-use plastic, including polystyrene and expanded polystyrene commodity, shall be prohibited with effect from 1st July 2022. So this is a new rule that has come up, and you can see that all these earbuds with plastic stick for balloons, plastic flags, candy sticks, ice cream sticks, polystyrene, thermocol for decoration, all this thing has to be banned. And then plates, cups, glasses, cutlery such as forks, spoons, straws, trays, wrapping, and all these things that are less than 100 microns, and also PVC banners which are less than 100 microns, this commodity shall be prohibited from this particular date. So we have to go for alternative materials instead of using this existing materials which are made of single-use plastic. So also there is a ban on plastic carry bags. Plastic carry bags having thickness less than 120 microns are banned from 31st December 2022. So these are the latest notifications that has come from the government which are in regards to single-use plastic, and as you can understand, this will have a significant impact on our lifestyle, on the different kind of products that we use, and even on the pricing of alternatives, right? Because plastics are so popular because they are cheap. Instead of this, if we go for alternatives, of course the price will increase, but at the same point of time, the overall cost to society will definitely reduce. Now, what are the alternatives? Some of the alternatives which should replace the ones which you see earlier in the earlier slide are bioplastics, biodegradable plastic, compostable plastic. So bioplastics are plastic made from organic materials such as cornstarch and often made of polylactic acid and can be decomposed. Biodegradable plastics refer to petroleum-based plastics but which can break down quickly. And compostable plastics undergo degradation by biological process during composting and does not leave visible, distinguishable or toxic residue. So you can see that this is one of the one kind of plastic cup which is made of 100% compostable and 100% biodegradable. So some of the other concerns regarding alternative plastics. So of course these are alternative plastics. They are made of different materials and so on. But the problem is these alternatives can be issued in regions where basic source segregation is not followed because they are mixed with other kinds of material and plastics. And when they are mixed with conventional plastic, they are difficult to distinguish, and to segregate them from mixed sources would be difficult. So even though these are compostable, we cannot, because it is mixed with other kinds of plastic which are not compostable, and that is a big problem. So this is what we have to, that means we have to make some markings on them and so on, so that we know that what kind of plastic is this, and accordingly we can take some measures. Now once the plastics we can reduce from single use by, we can change the material of plastic, that is we can change the actual source where plastic is being generated, or we can change the nature of the material that we are using. But at the same point of time, we have to do there would be remaining other kinds of plastics which we are using, those would remain. So we have to go for their recycling and reuse. The two primary reuse that we have discussed is refuse derived fuel or co-processing in thermal and cement industries. And we have, if you remember from our earlier lecture, we have discussed the case study of Jabalpur Municipal Corporation and the SSC Holcim plant, where plastic waste is actually recycled or used as a refuse derived fuel. So we have done a detailed case study on that. The other is, it could be a substitute for bitumen in road construction. So shredded garbage, we have to first shred the garbage, plastic garbage such as carry bag, chip bags, chocolate bar wrappers, plastic bags, bottle lids and so on, and this will be shredded, and then we can use it for production of bitumen alternatives, and this is now made mandatory by government order. So this use of plastic in road construction or as an alternative to bitumen improves the wear and tear quality of flexible pavements. It improves the aggregate impact value. It's improved the resistance from rain and cold water. At the same point of time, it does not allow leaching through that particular surface. Road life increases. No leaching of plastics and no effect of radiation like ultraviolet radiation. So this is why we have already done a lot of work in this particular area. One of our IIT Kharagpur professors has done a lot of work in this area, and this is where we say that this kind of techniques can be actually beneficial not only for road construction but also for recycling of plastic as well. Now the process is, first we have to shred the plastic, then we have to this is used as an aggregate mix with bitumen and this is done at 160 degrees centigrade for good binding. Now for 1 kg of stone, means aggregate, 50 grams of bitumen is required. Now we can replace 1/10 of that, which is 5 grams of bitumen, can be replaced with plastic waste. So it's not a big amount, but still it's quite, if you take the entire country, it's a huge amount of plastic which can go for this kind of production. Now Himachal Pradesh government has used polyethylene for metalling around 250 kilometers of road as a pilot case study which has been done. Now we can also recycle thermoform or styrofoam as well, because as you know that these are used extensively in packaging, as packaging material, and it's also used in the construction industry as it is a good insulator, and also used in the decoration industry for making those thermocol decorations and so on. So when we recycle thermocol, we can grind it and then mix it with new thermocol bits, because before we press them into new thermocol sheets, or it could be shredded into a fine powder. It could be reduced via, the volume of that could be reduced via certain kind of solvents, and some example technology demonstrators have been already done in this regard, such as in Pune's Science and Technology Park. A plant has been set up and it's at Ranjangaon. This is a 10 TPD, tons per day thermocol waste management plant. That means it takes around 10 tons per day of thermocol waste and they recycle them into furniture. So these are cheap, durable, and also this furniture that is being produced is cheap, durable, and also fireproof. Now, because the other problem with thermocol is very light, it is also not dense. So there is a need for specialized thermocol compactors so that we can reduce the overall bulk before we further process it for transportation and for recycling. So for that we have specialized thermocol compactors, and this could be utilized for processing and recycling of thermocol. Now the final project that we will discuss is conversion of plastic waste into liquid fuel. It's of course a pyrolysis project. It's a pyrolysis technique is utilized. So it's a pilot project has been done in Nagpur, Maharashtra, and the process adopted is random depolymerization of plastic into liquid fuel in presence of a catalyst, and it is done in closed reactor vessels where it is heated to 270 to 300 degrees centigrade, and the plastic turns into a liquid vapor state. So then in the condensation chamber, similar to pyrolysis if you remember, then we allow it to condensate. When it allows to condensate, it becomes liquid fuel, and this sterile liquid and some other organic material, this could be some other which organic gases also are generated, which could be vented, and the gas can be used for electricity generation from this particular plant. So this kind of this kind of conversion could be also evaluated directly for in detail for technical, environmental and financial feasibility of this kind of projects. So this is a pilot project, but further feasibility analysis needs to be done in this regard, but this is an alternative which we can also explore. And the one example of utilization of this is something like a general pool residential accommodation complex of the Ministry of Urban Development in New Motibagh, Delhi. Around 50 kg, they have set up a 50 kg per batch handling plant for plastic waste into liquid fuel, and the product of that is being utilized for creating this kind of here they are using that for in this particular accommodation complex. So some other examples of plastic recycling and reuse: conversion of PET bottles into textile products. It's a case from Pune, and it's a petrochemical company. They have installed some reverse vending machines at various locations where people can put in their PET bottles, and these are recycled and used to make fabrics for bags, t-shirts, garments, but they mix it with some amount of cotton wool and so on. The other example is conversion of plastic bag into paver tiles. It's a case from Hyderabad, where Bamboo House India in collaboration with Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation, are creating paver tiles for roads made from this used polybags and other plastic waste like polybags, cheap packets, plastic bottles, bottle caps and so on. So that is what you can see over here. So these are some of the references you can study. And to conclude, special waste requires special handling and disposal and separate consideration in municipal solid waste management. And plastic recycling and reuse has been made mandatory, but still there is a need to reduce single-use plastic. Thank you.